how to treat color in a black and white drawing. When I come down to this apple, how am I going to deal with that in a black and white drawing when I've got color going on? And this is so much more low in value, right? Well, I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to do black, white, and gray. So I'm going to shade, I'm going to find the line between light and shadow. Seems to be coming down about like this. Okay, so I'm going to say this is my line between light and shadow. I know that's where my shadow core is going to be, so I'm going to go black there in a cross contour. I'm going to go black down on the table because that's my cast shadow. I'm going to make this gray in here because that's my reflected light. I'm going to leave this paper white. I'm going to do that with the lemon. See shadow core coming here and here. I see cast shadow here on the table. This is just my shadow blocking and my planning as I go, right? This is reflected light. This, of course, can be smoothed out here to go a lot more nuanced, but I'm not worrying about that right now. All right, here's my other apple and my shadow. And I'm going to get that into black, white, and gray. Now it's time for me to differentiate between this and this and this and this, right? So if this apple, let's just do the two apples first, and let's say red is much lower on the value scale, right? If this is my black and this is my white, and these are my tones in between, right? Red is down here, and the pastel green is up here. Therefore, my light of my green, perhaps I'm going to do, if I'm going to say this is a number 1, I have to go more than 1, 2, 3, right? I've got black, white, and gray. Yeah. And if I wanted to go into nuance here, I'd be going into 5 tones. But now I need to go up to like 10 tones or maybe 15 tones or something like that. I don't know if I can handle more than 10 in one drawing, but let's say we're going to go to 10. Okay. So this is going to be my number 1, paper white. That's my lightest. Number 2 is going to be my light here. Then I'm probably, if this is going to be black, I'm going to jump down to a number 8 or 9 with this core and cast. Let's say this is going to be 9 and this is going to be 8, right? All my shadows on the table, let's say I want to make them a 9. I may need to go down to 10 with that so that I get more value range. But let's say those cast shadows are all going to be 9 or 10 on the table. My core here is going to be just up from that. So I'm going to go 8 with this. I'm going to go 8. I'm actually going to go 8 or 9 on this. I'm going to go down to 10 on the table with this. This lemon, I may want to go a little bit lighter, but I'm going to keep that down to an 8. And I'm going to keep this down to an 8. So all of my core is going to be an 8. And my cast, what we're going to say, is going to be a 10, just so I can differentiate between those two, right? So now all I have is reflected and light values to play with. My highlights are all going to be white because these things are plastic or they're wet and shiny. So I'm going to make those all a number 1. So now I have values from 2 to 7 to play with, right? So I'm going to put my 7 probably in the shadow of the red apple. I'm going to put probably a 5 or a 6 in the shadow. Let's say a 5 in the shadow of the lemon. So if I have a 5 here, I can come up to the light over here and I can say, well, this is going to be a 2 of the lemon. So now it's darker than the 1 of the, right? Maybe I want to go to a 3 there. So it looks darker than this white because I've got light here and a 2. I'm going to go down to a 3. I'm going to use a 4 for this apple, and I'm going to use a 5 for this apple, or maybe a 6 even, because this apple seems quite dark even on the light side. So now my rules are kept, right? This is darkest, this is next light, this is next light, this is lightest. This is a 1, this is a 2, this is a 3, this is a 4, this is a 5, right? In the light areas. And then in the reflected light areas, I have from 7 and 8s down. Over here, maybe I want to do this in like a 6 or a 5. So it could be that my reflected light in this white fabric is the same as the light in this green apple. As long as I'm keeping my rule across here and the reflected light in my fabric isn't lighter than the light in my fabric, right? So I'm playing with light and reflected light, but I'm leaving my cast and my core pretty much black throughout the whole drawing. And again, that's unifying my drawing. Then you go back to the overall, to the rules, and say, is my reflected light lighter than my light? No, it's okay. Is my core still showing up? Because sometimes when I go into darken the reflected light, I lose my core. So then I have to go blacker with my core and blacker with my cast. And it keeps pushing me down and deeper into using a full value range, right? So what I'm trying to get you to do with this class is to do shadow blocking, which is immediately to put down a bunch of black on your page. If you see black, black, and you see white, white, you've got all those things in between you can play with, right? What happens with graphite pencils a lot of times is we start drawing, and some of us, we can't even see our drawings, and some of us, we draw really hard, and it gets so that we're like playing with these tiny little gradations, and we're seeing up in front of us tiny little gradations. And as artists, that's killer. That's not going to work. We have to make sure that we are simplifying. We have to simplify things, or we're just not going to be able to see it. And if we're not able to see it, we're not going to be able to draw it, right? So think like a graphic artist. I'm basically teaching you like graphic artists so that you're seeing hard lines between things and you're drawing hard lines between things. And then as you get into the nuances, you go on with your studies, those of you who are more advanced are going to be doing those subtle nuances of like, well, I see this reflected light and I see that reflected light and I think they're a little bit different. So how am I going to play with those? Well, that's a matter of 10 tones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. I'm only asking you to get 3. I need black, white, and gray, right? If we combine the black for the core and the cast, and we get reflected in a gray, and we leave the white in the highlight paper white, I'm satisfied. You can make a beautiful drawing. The other thing I want you to concentrate on is soft edge and hard edge. Where does the light get a hard edge? Along that core, because it's moving here from light to dark, right? It's jumping over this. If this is a number 2 for your light, and this is a number 4 over here for your or a 3 over here for your reflected light, you're putting a 4 in between, and a 2 from a 4 is a high jump. But a 3 to a 4 is not. So this is going to be a softer transition from your core to your reflected. Then you're getting another hard transition from reflected light to cast, because if this was the number 3, the cast is the number 5. So again, that's jumping over the number in between.